Springfield Prodigy AOS comp 5-inch FDE. Let's talk about it. So I'll do a quick overview of this 5-inch AOS Prodigy comp. One of the first things you're gonna notice when you see or pick this gun up is this big old window cut out of the top of the barrel. For those of you who don't know what this is, these are typically called ports, but they call it a comp. It's somewhat interchangeable term. Honestly, just meaning that it redirects gas upward to fight recoil and reduce muzzle flip. Now, one thing that's interesting about this, and I'm glad that they did, is they ended the rifling at the end before the beginning of the comp. That's going to maintain the accuracy, and you're not gonna have any issues with too much spall and metal shaving shooting out of the top of the compensator. The compensator absolutely does work. This is an extremely soft shooting, easy to shoot gun. I actually took one of my friends who has never shot a pistol before, and I ruined him by giving him, this is the first gun he ever shot. So now he will never like shooting ever again. You know, on a funny note, but yes, it's got a, we'll talk about the trigger here in a little bit. It's got a, you know, your typical 1911, 2011 trigger. One thing I do like is Springfield's AOS optics mounting system. So we have a Trigicon RMR attached on here, and you can see just how low that optic sits into the slide. Obviously, training can overcome anything with the presentation of a dot, but I do like, as someone who has spent many years and tens of thousands of rounds shooting guns like Glocks with a low deck height and bore, when I present that gun, it's just natural. That's one thing I really like that they did, that they figured out how to make this optic system compatible with different optics, able to sit low into the gun. This gun came with some 20-round extensions. I got your flush fit 17-round magazine. You know, we don't have it in right now, but you can see you have a nice, somewhat little bit of a funnel, so it's not like reloading your typical 1911 where you're trying to fit a tiny little thing into a tiny little hole. You got a nice big open gap there. You can just slam that magazine in for quick reloads. Now we've talked a little bit about the overview of this gun. We're gonna load some rounds up, go shoot it, see how it does. All right, guys, initial impressions. Prodigy AOS comp. This thing is so much fun to shoot. I can't get over it. I'm burning through way too much ammo. I shot a few hundred rounds through it before we got out here just to ensure reliability, get some of the round count up. Now we're gonna shoot a few more rounds through it and see how it does. New mag. Guys, this gun is so fun, so easy to shoot. I got a malfunction. All right, little failure to feed right there. Bullet nosedived a little bit right there on the feed ramp. Simple tap rack. Try that again. Cool, just to reload. So we got out here today, started shooting a few hundred more rounds through this gun. We had a failure to feed. The nose of the round dipped a little bit when it was hitting the feed ramp. So we added a few drops of oil, as you should with 19 and 2011 to the feed ramp, loaded up some more rounds, and let's see how she runs. Good lock back. Good, another lock back. Yep, guys, I think that's all we needed. These 2011s, you got to baby them a little bit. Just added a little bit of oil. Seems like it fixed the problem. So we went ahead and tossed this RMR back. I wanted to get some shots with the irons because I know a lot of people are iron sight people and they're going to want to run that. But now we're going to go back to the dot. One thing I like, it does sit very low in the slide for a 2011 design with this AOS optics mounting system. So we'll get some more rounds through it and see how it performs. Good, lock back and everything. All right, initial impressions with this Prodigy comp have been excellent so far. Besides that one failure to feed we had dropped a little bit of oil. It was looking a little dry on the feed ramp, and the gun has continued to run flawlessly for the next few hundred rounds. It's been really good so far. Let's talk about the ergonomics. This is a 2011, so similar to a 1911 with a few different changes. Obviously, the double stack magazine is going to make this grip much wider. So for those of you guys who have smaller hands like me, you're gonna have a lot of space to really drive that support hand in. Just something to keep in mind, you know, you got a lot of space to fill here. So you guys with bigger hands may like something like this versus a 1911. You know, sometimes depending on the design of the gun, 1911 safeties can be finicky. They can be really stiff and hard to depress, but this one is completely natural. I really didn't have any issues keeping the grip safety depressed or depressing the slide safety on the draw. And that's one thing that's really important. You want to keep this gun cocked and locked, but easy to drop it into a position where it's ready to fire right off the bat. We already mentioned the AOS optics mounting system, but you have some front and rear serrations here. These are cut deep enough, they're good for what they are. I wouldn't probably recommend front racking all the way up here on a 5-inch 2011, but you can do it. But you got plenty of real estate to manipulate that slide, whether you like to slingshot or come over the top with these slide serrations, and then obviously grabbing onto the top of the optic if you want to do that as well. A little bit of subtle change you'll see here. You have a little smooth section right underneath the grip, and you have a double undercut. For me, it fits extremely well in my hand to where my knuckle is not getting driven right into that little point. Gives you just a little bit of additional purchase on that pistol. Some of you may not notice it, but it is nice attention to detail. So there's a quick overview on the ergonomics on this gun. All right, guys, we're going to jump into the accuracy portion with this AOS Comp 5-inch model. We have a few different ammo types set up here at 7 yards. Each one's going to get 5 rounds. We've got AAC 115 grain, Blazer 115 grain, MagTech 115 grain steel, and some Federal HST 124 defensive hollow points. Like I said, 5 rounds each here at 7 yards. Let's see how it goes. Malfunction. All right, let's see what's going on there. So that gun just locked back. The round wasn't nosedived, it was just sitting there ready to go. Okay, all right, I'll go load up the next one. That was a good grip though. Did it again. Another failure to feed. And that was a different ammo type too. So let me shoot this last round. Because if y'all can't see down there, they're all through the same hole and I can't mess this up. Okay, lock back. You know what? I think I figured out what the problem is. I'm resting the base of this magazine on this rest right here. And as you can see, there's just a little bit of movement upward. That would be enough to over-insert and stop the slide from cycling. And usually that wouldn't be a problem if you were just free shooting the gun, but something to keep in mind, if you're gonna bench rest or shoot this gun from a prone position, it seems like you can't really press on the bottom of the magazine or it's gonna cause the gun to lock to the rear. All right, so we're gonna see if we can replicate the over-insertion issue. I have my personal Glock 17 here. The way I'm gonna do this is I'm going to intentionally teacup grip and press hard up on the bottom of the magazine, simulating if you were bench resting the gun. We're gonna see if I can cause that failure in my Glock, which I don't think we will. Then we've got the standard flush fit mag and the 20-round extended mag. We're gonna do that with the Prodigy and see how it goes. So I'm pressing up really hard. Obviously, this is not an optimal grip. So as you can see, I did not have any issues with the Glock, the way they have built-in design in these magazines. We're going to do the exact same thing with the Prodigy. Loaded up 10 rounds in each mag. I'm going to press up on the base plate and see if we can replicate the problem. Let's do it like that. Ow, that was hot. All right. Yep, there we go. Replicated the problem, putting too much pressure on the bottom of the magazine, over-insertion issue. And now we'll finish that off and we will go to the 20-round magazine. Now this has a little big spacer in it that's supposed to stop this from happening, but let's see what happens. Okay, so it doesn't seem like you have the same level of over-insertion issues with the 20 round magazine as you do with the flush fitting magazine. So something to keep in mind if you are shooting this gun from a prone position with the flush fitting magazine. So the accuracy results are pretty good with this Prodigy with the compensator. So in terms of the accuracy and how that performs, as you can see, most of these groups were all of the holes touching. Had a little bit of deviation with the AAC. That is still just about 1.25 inch group right here with the AAC. And then as you can see with the Blazer, HST, and the MagTech, well within 1 inch. So the gun is accuracy exceptionally reliable with different types of ammo. So if you were in the market for something that's got a light, crisp trigger, is gonna have lighter recoil impulse, shoots well, and you have around that $1,000 to $2,000 mark, what are you looking at? Are you looking at a Prodigy? Are you looking at a Shadow 2 Custom? What are you thinking? Drop in the comments below. Let's talk about the trigger. We did a little bit of testing with the Lyman digital trigger gauge, getting right about 3 pounds, 7 to 8 ounces. It's not too light, it's not too heavy. We'll go ahead and show you the trigger profile real quick. So we've got our grip safety and our slide safety depressed. You got a little bit of take up to a wall. Sometimes, depending on how you press the trigger, you might get a tiny bit of creep. But usually when you're shooting, you're doing anything remotely quick, you're not gonna be able to feel it. Overall, if you are familiar with the profile, the feel of a 1911 or 2011 trigger, this is right about middle of the road, what you can expect. Not too heavy, crisp enough to be able to shoot precise at distance, shoot small targets. And overall, it's a pretty good trigger. Final thoughts on this AOS comp, pros, cons. One thing I noticed, even just looking at the gun a second ago, it looked like the recoil spring was sticking out just a little bit. And I'm like, am I big dummy? Did I not fully seat it back in after I lubed this gun? But no, it definitely walked itself out after reviewing the footage from shooting earlier. So one thing to keep in mind, make sure that you have this thing properly torqued down. And that if you're shooting a few hundred rounds through it and it wants to walk itself out, just keep that little torque wrench in your bag. Now the gun continued running just fine, even with it sticking out a little bit, which is kind of cool. Just something to keep in mind, one piece to, you know, if you're gonna get this and shoot it on your own, keep a lookout for that. We did have a little bit of reliability issues. We had that one failure to feed where the nose kind of dived down a little bit in the magazine before it hit the feed ramp. We added a little bit of oil to the feed ramp and we weren't able to replicate that issue. So that is one thing, ownership of these 2011s. They're not your Glock striker fired guns. You need to oil them, keep them properly maintained, and they should run pretty well for you. We had the issues with the T-cup pressing up on the magazine, causing the over-insertion. Positionally, how you shoot this gun and how you choose to shoot it, that's a good piece of data to know you can't really do that and you're not gonna be able to have 100% reliability if you are shooting the gun in that manner. This gun does have a lot of good things going for it. I know the Prodigy doesn't have the best track record so far with the initial release when it came out. I think Springfield has made some changes, and the one that we have, besides that one failure to feed, has been 100% reliable. Something to keep in mind, if you're gonna go out and buy one of these, make sure you get some ammo to go along, shoot it, get it nice and worn in, proper maintenance, and see how your mileage varies. Because if it runs really well for you, there's a lot of value going into this gun. You are getting, you know, you think about something like the Staccato XC as an excellent gun. It's got a much bigger price tag than something like this. You get your big comp to reduce that muzzle flip. So if you're running this in IDPA carry optics or you're running this in Steel Challenge or something, you're gonna get a very light recoiling, very easy to shoot gun. Comes optics ready. You've got magazine options. It shoots exceptionally well. I love shooting this gun. Everyone that I had let borrow and shoot this gun loved it. You know, it's just one of those things. Is this going to be your everyday carry duty gun? I mean, it's a big gun, maybe you can, but probably not. If you are looking for a fun 2011 to shoot, to run in competition, to introduce to a new shooter like I did, to let them love shooting, get them into something that's fun, this is a great option. It comes in at a good price point. I think you just gotta get some ammo, train with it, see how it goes, go accordingly, replace any parts that need to be replaced. But overall, I think it's cool that we have, you know, an option at a lower price point for people who cannot necessarily afford a more expensive 2011 platform gun. We have a recent video out actually covering the Staccato HDP4. For those of you who have not seen that, similar, but very different in a lot of ways to this gun. If you wanna go and check it out, link will be in the description. We'll see you guys next time.